guys. So I haven't uploaded in a while because I've sort of been working on my little project, which I may or may not have said. That was my sort of new autobiography memoir thing, and I've called it Diary of an Epileptic. And I thought I'd do a bit of a Q&A today, just because today is its release date, and yeah, I'm kind of proud about it. So let's get into the questions. Question 1. What was missing that made me want to write the book, really? So I think it was the fact that people didn't really understand the term in epilepsy, and if they did, they never really knew how to deal with it. Often I would meet people and they'd sort of be, chatting all happily, and then as soon as you mention that word, you just sort of see their faces turn from sort of a nice polite conversation to just sort of one of abject horror. And I think people think they're disguising it, but they really don't. But yeah, so I wanted to write the book to sort of challenge a few of the stereotypes, and actually give people an insight into what it's like living with epilepsy taking over your brain. Yeah. So, question 2 is the turning point. So I think for me, sort of a big sort of turning point in my life was when the lit surgery didn't go very well. So I think if you'd have watched my previous videos, you'll know that I've had laser interstitial thermal therapy, or lit therapy for short, which is sort of brain surgery, which involves drilling a sort of small hole in your skull, and then they ablated, or basically burned out, 5.5 centimeters of my brain. So it was half of my fusiform gyrus and half of my lingual gyrus. So it's parts of your brain that recognize like faces, directions, that kind of bit. I think that you have a matching set on your left-hand side. So technically I've got 3/4 of it working, if that makes sense. But yeah, it's sort of, after the surgery went wrong, it's sort of, you think, why me, a lot of the time. And sort of I did speak to sort of a very lovely sort of hospital psychiatrist and psychologist, and they were both quite sweet. And I think it was the psychologist that said, why don't you try and write it down, like diarise it? And I'm like, okay, it doesn't cause any harm. And sort of over the span of a year, it's sort of, I began right at the beginning, sort of before the actual diagnosis at 13 years old, and took it pretty much up until the present day, as in right now. But yeah, it's sort of, it was quite helpful to just write it all down, get it all out there, and sort of explain the journey step by step. And yeah, if it helps somebody who's been newly diagnosed, or even just wants to understand the condition a little better, then it would have been worth writing. So yeah, I think that's the main reason I wanted to write the book. So another question I've got is, what is this book not? So it's not just sort of like a how to live your life guide. It's not sort of, this is me telling you exactly what you should be doing with your life. But this is me saying, this is what's happened, sort of in my personal circumstances. These are all of the obstacles I've had, and I'm still living a life. I'm still a person. I'm not just the epilepsy. And I think it's very important to get that message across, because sometimes your personality can sort of be like sucked up by hospital visits, scans, diagnoses, all these technical words and lingo. That you sort of feel like you are the epilepsy and you're not yourself. So me, it'll be like, I'm Madeline, not the seizures. And sometimes that can be a bit hard. It sounds silly if you don't have the condition, but when you have epilepsy, it's very easy to sort of become just the condition. It's not great. But But yeah, I did find it therapeutic to sort of write it all down, and yeah, hopefully it helps someone. So question 4 is, who is the book for? So it's a bit of a mix, actually. I'd say primarily it would be for newly diagnosed people, or maybe like parents of children that have been diagnosed. And I know that when you first hear the word epilepsy, like right at the beginning, your whole world just spins. Like you've got no idea what's going on. You just want someone to give you a nice, easy answer. What do I do? How do I cope with this? What happens next? Kind of thing. And I'm just hoping that by reading sort of this memoir kind of style book, it helps, you know. And it would be helpful if maybe a researcher was interested in reading it. So I've had a couple of charities reach out already, and they're interested in sort of learning more about it, which is quite sweet. And if they were, I'm trying to phrase this right now, it would be good to help people studying epilepsy, like in terms of medical studying, learn what goes on behind the scenes, rather than just, you know, epilepsy scans, all medical jargon. I think it would be helpful for them to be like, okay, this is clearly affecting people's lives a lot, and hopefully that gives people like an extra push or some like motivation or something, you know. Again, if it impacts at least one person, it counts as a win for me. So yeah. Because I deal with the topic of surgery in the book, that is also kind of a big thing. So in 2019, sort of shortly before the dreaded COVID, I did have an SEEG, or it's otherwise known as an intracranial EEG, I think. So that's when they sort of stick lots of bolts all over your skull, and they sort of they put like electrodes onto your actual brain tissue, sort of through the various holes, and they measure your EEG spikes, sort of electricity basically in your brain for, you know, it's, for me it was 10 days. So it depends person to person. Like if you seize, say, 3 times in the first couple of days, you might have enough data and they can go, okay, we're done now. But with me, it took me so long to have a seizure, which I found slightly ironic because usually I'm seizing like every other day. So I think this week alone I've seized every day actually, which has been exhausting. But it is what it is. But with the surgical pathway, I feel like people need to sort of have not an education, that sounds a bit mean, but sort of just be as informed as possible before going ahead with these sort of things. And again, if it helps someone that goes, oh, I don't know if I should take the jump or not. Oh, don't mind Daisy. She's just I have also got Eliza sat with me. You can't really see her. But there you go. Yeah, no, if that makes a difference to somebody contemplating surgery, just wants a patient voice, then yeah, I count it as a win. But I would love to hear any questions you guys have. Please do drop a like and subscribe if you like the channel. And yeah, I'll try and sort of keep some videos coming, and yeah, hopefully see you next time.